Welcome, this is Alden Reed, and you are watching Arcane Tablets. While there is one singular human species, humanity is further divided between 12 different subgroups, which I call color tribes. Each color tribe represents a color from the visible light spectrum or rainbow and has its own unique set of physical color features, as well as its own unique kind of metaphysical color energy. In this video, we are going to highlight some of the important metaphysical attributes that correspond with each color tribe. Specifically, we are going to discuss color tribes in terms of genders, qualities, and elements. Each color tribe is essentially ruled by an astrological sign. Thus, color tribes are also imbued by the same genders, qualities, and elements which are associated with their corresponding astrological signs. Okay, so before we get to discussing metaphysical attributes and correspondences, I want to offer a brief refresher into where in the world we might find people from each color tribe. These core regions are the ancestral homelands of each color tribe, basically the areas where each color tribe evolved and adopted the phenotypes they are known for. Of course, we must remember that even though each of these core areas remains heavily dominated by monocolor people from the local color tribe, there are still plenty of people from other color tribes living in these areas as well, especially people from neighboring color tribes. Areas outside these core regions are very diverse, and many people in these regions are heavily color blended, which means that they have ancestors from several different color tribes. For example, the people of Central Asia are mostly a blend of blue, bronze, orange, and yellow. So here we have a chart focusing on universal energy signatures and metaphysical correspondences. Universal energy signatures are raw primal forces which represent many different aspects of being and imbue many different things in reality. As such, metaphysical attributes which are imbued by the same energy signature have natural corresponding relationships with each other. As we can see, each color tribe has a gender, quality, and element, and if you are already familiar with astrology, then you are familiar with these attributes. Each color tribe is also aligned with a chakra and an astrological sign, and studying each color tribe's corresponding gender, quality, element, chakra, and astrological sign enables us to quickly get a sense of what each color tribe's metaphysical color energy is all about. Indeed, having a strong understanding of astrology is very important to helping us understand color tribes. So if you are not very familiar with astrology, I would recommend you do some more research into this subject. Needless to say, there is no shortage of books, websites, and videos about astrology, so this should not be too difficult. We will discuss how chakras and signs influence color tribes in future videos, but for now I want to discuss more broadly shared attributes like genders, qualities, and elements. First, it is important to clarify that when we are talking about gender energy here, we are talking about metaphysical energy, not physical or biological gender. And this is true for these other categories as well. Qualities, elements, chakras, astrological signs, and color energy are all metaphysical phenomena. So when we say that a color tribe is masculine or feminine, this isn't directly tied to our physical sex. That being said, gender energy derived from these metaphysical attributes is still quite similar to the gender energy derived from our biological gender. To put it simply, most biological men channel a large amount of base masculine gender energy, while most biological women channel a large amount of base feminine gender energy. However, in addition to this base gender energy, people also have additional layers of metaphysical gender energy, which is derived from their astrological chart and their color energy. The essential point is that although these additional metaphysical layers modify our base gender energy, they do not overrule it. Base gender energy is still quite powerful, and certainly most men and women are strongly influenced by their physical gender, regardless of any additional metaphysical gender layers. Nevertheless, when it comes to color energy, we can really see how these additional layers of metaphysical gender energy does still strongly influence the members of each color tribe and the various ethnic groups, nationalities, and cultures they create. The three qualities are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. In general terms, cardinal energy is active, ambitious, and bold, but sometimes impulsive and overbearing. Fixed energy is decisive, purposeful, and steadfast, but sometimes stubborn and rigid. Mutable energy is adaptable, versatile, and sociable, but sometimes vacillating and drifting. The four primary elements are fire, earth, air, and water. In general terms, fire energy is intense, intrepid, and assertive, but sometimes harsh and reckless. Earth energy is stable, practical, and grounded, but sometimes monotone and inflexible. Air energy is expansive, creative, and intellectual, but sometimes diffuse and detached. Water energy is fluid, intuitive, and emotional, but sometimes erratic and tempestuous. So now let's look at some pictures of people from each color tribe as we highlight their corresponding gender, quality, and elemental energy. First, let's start with metaphysical gender energy. The 6 masculine color tribes are pink, copper, bronze, gold, cyan, and indigo. So right away, we can notice some interesting things about these masculine labels. First, as we can see, masculine tribes represent intermediate or tertiary colors. Moreover, we can see that metallic color labels are appropriately considered masculine. And from a metaphysical perspective, pink, cyan, and indigo are classified as metallic colors as well. On a physical level, people from masculine color tribes tend to have slightly sharper and more angular facial and body features, as well as naturally wavy, curly, or coiled hair. The main exception is the indigo tribe, which tends to have softer, more rounded facial features. This is because they are ruled by the third eye chakra, which represents transformation. As we shall see in a moment, this is perfectly mirrored by the violet tribe, which is the feminine third eye chakra tribe. Nevertheless, indigo people still certainly have naturally very curly or coiled hair. Now, it is of course also true that all biological men tend to have sharper and more angular facial and body features, and all biological women tend to have softer and more rounded facial and body features. So it is important to keep this in mind. But what we really see is that women from masculine tribes tend to have slightly more sharpness and angularity than women from feminine tribes, and men from feminine tribes tend to have slightly more softness and roundness than men from masculine tribes. In terms of metaphysical gender energy, we can definitely immediately realize how masculine color energy strongly influences the social behavior and attitudes, perspectives, and values of people from each of these color tribes. People from masculine color tribes tend to be more active, bold, dominant, mental, rational, instinctual, realistic, materialistic, and conservative than people from feminine tribes. Of course, once again, it is very important to remember that all biological men from any color tribe are more likely to exhibit these qualities. However, these qualities are even more pronounced among people from masculine color tribes, both male and female. People from masculine color tribes also tend to be very energetic and outgoing, and they are sometimes less sensitive of personal space and feelings. When we think about the ethnic groups, nationalities, and cultures associated with the pink people of Oceania, or the copper people of the Sahara and East Africa, or the bronze people of the Middle East, or the gold people of North Africa and the Levant, or the cyan people of Western Europe, or the indigo people of Sub-Saharan Africa, it is generally quite obvious that people from these groups strongly channel many masculine behavioral qualities. Interestingly, in terms of geography, the vast majority of masculine color tribes are located in a large contiguous block covering Africa and the Middle East, with the other blocks being in Western Europe and Oceania. Okay, so now let's look at the feminine tribes. The 6 feminine tribes are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. As we can see, feminine color tribe labels represent the 6 primary and secondary colors. This metaphysically symbolizes the fact that feminine energy gives birth to masculine energy. By mixing primary colors, we create secondary colors, and by mixing primary and secondary colors, we create tertiary colors. But tertiary colors generally do not create more colors. On a physical level, people from feminine color tribes tend to have softer and more rounded facial and body features, as well as naturally straight hair. Certainly, sometimes this hair might be slightly wavy, but it is relatively uncommon for it to be very curly or coiled. As I mentioned earlier, one of the main exceptions to this is the violet tribe, which is the sister tribe to the indigo tribe, and thus is also ruled by the third eye chakra and symbolizes transformation. As such, just as indigo people often have softer, more rounded facial features, violet people often have sharper, more angular facial features. Yet at the same time, just as indigo people still have very curly or coiled hair, violet people still have straight or slightly wavy hair. In terms of metaphysical gender energy, we can definitely immediately realize how feminine color energy strongly influences the social behavior and attitudes, perspectives, and values of people from each of these color tribes. People from feminine color tribes tend to be more calm, cautious, submissive, emotional, intuitive, sensitive, idealistic, spiritual, and liberal than people from masculine tribes. Of course, yet again, it is very important to remember that all biological women from any color tribe are more likely to exhibit these qualities. However, these qualities are even more pronounced among people from feminine color tribes, both male and female. People from feminine color tribes also tend to be more relaxed and comfortable at home, and they are sometimes very sensitive about personal space and feelings. When we talk about the ethnic groups, nationalities, and cultures associated with the red people of the Americas, or the orange people of South Asia, or the yellow people of East Asia, or the green people of the Mediterranean, or the blue people of Eastern Europe, or the violet people of Northern Europe, it is generally quite obvious that people from these groups strongly channel many feminine behavioral qualities. Interestingly, in terms of geography, the vast majority of feminine color tribes are located in a large contiguous block covering most of Eurasia, with the other smaller block being in Central and South America. So while genders and elements tend to be relatively easy to define and discuss in an abstract sense, qualities are slightly more elusive in this regard. While it is certainly possible to say some things about cardinal, fixed, and mutable tribes in general terms, I find that qualities tend to operate quite differently depending on the other metaphysical attributes associated with each color tribe. Thus, for now, we are only going to discuss the 3 qualities very briefly. In the future, as we shift to discussing each color tribe individually, I will have much more to say about the specific way each quality influences and interacts with each color tribe's gender, element, chakra, and astrological sign. The cardinal color tribes are pink, orange, gold, and blue. Cardinal energy is active, ambitious, and bold, but sometimes impulsive and overbearing. People from cardinal color tribes tend to feel very proud of their culture and confident in their way of doing things, and they excel at blazing new trails and tackling new tasks. When we think about the pink people of Oceania, or the orange people of South Asia, or the gold people of North Africa and the Levant, or the blue people of Eastern Europe, we can easily see how the ethnic groups, nationalities, and cultures created by these groups are strongly influenced by cardinal energy. The fixed color tribes are red, bronze, green, and indigo. Fixed energy is decisive, purposeful, and steadfast, but sometimes stubborn and rigid. People from fixed color tribes tend to feel very comfortable with their culture and confident in their way of doing things, and they excel at embracing daily routines and taking decisive action. When we think about the red people of the Americas, or the bronze people of the Middle East, or the green people of Mediterranean Europe, or the indigo people of sub-Saharan Africa, we can easily see how the ethnic groups, nationalities, and cultures created by these groups are strongly influenced by fixed energy. The mutable color tribes are copper, yellow, cyan, and violet. Mutable energy is adaptable, versatile, and sociable, but sometimes vacillating and drifting. People from mutable color tribes tend to feel very open-minded about their culture and flexible in their way of doing things, and they excel at adopting new attitudes and approaches towards life. When we think about the copper people of the Sahara and East Africa, or the yellow people of East Asia, or the cyan people of Western Europe, or the violet people of Northern Europe, we can easily see how the ethnic groups, nationalities, and cultures created by these groups are strongly influenced by mutable energy. The fire color tribes are pink, bronze, and cyan. Fire energy is intense, intrepid, and assertive, but sometimes harsh and reckless. People from fire tribes generally value strength, mastery, knowledge, and competition, and they tend to be relatively sentimental, conservative, and individualistic. People from fire tribes usually like staying very busy and being constantly on the move. When they set their mind to an important task, they frequently move like a blazing wildfire, cutting a vast swath of destruction through the land. Even when resting, one can notice a tendency for fidgeting, much like the popping and crackling of slow-burning embers. People from fire tribes tend to express their emotions quite freely, and they rarely leave you guessing as to what they think about something. They are typically very playful and pursue their interests with great energy and intensity. Their biggest challenge is often finding a way to keep stoking their inner fires without burning the other people around them. Geographically speaking, people from the pink tribe usually live on volcanic islands and still largely dominate the area circumscribed by the Ring of Fire in the Pacific Ocean. People from the bronze tribe usually live in very hot and dry desert environments, ranging from the Sahara to the Taklamakan, but mostly centered in the Arabian Desert and the Middle East. And even though people from the Cyan tribe evolved in a much cooler Atlantic European climate, the ubiquitous presence of people with red necks and sunburned skin from the deep American South to the Australian outback testifies to the fact that many Cyan people are still quite at home in such environments. Culturally speaking, people from the fire tribes traditionally revered and often literally worshipped fire. Traditional pink Polynesian culture holds that volcanoes are divine and the source of human creation, and activities like fire dancing are still a major part of their culture. Traditional Bronze Arabian and Mesopotamian societies were also known for fire worship, and fire worship is one of the central tenets of Iranian Zoroastrian culture as well. Traditional Cyan Celtic people strongly revered and worshiped the sun wheel, and Cyan people have long enjoyed working with fire. Their ancient ancestors were master metalsmiths, and their more recent Enlightenment predecessors harnessed the power of fire and heat to fuel the Industrial Revolution. On a very basic level, we can easily see and feel how the pink people of Oceania, the bronze people of the Middle East, and the cyan people of Western Europe exemplify and exude this intense, fiery energy. The earth color tribes are red, yellow, and blue. Earth energy is stable, practical, and grounded, but sometimes monotone and inflexible. People from earth tribes generally value stability, discipline, wisdom, and cooperation, and they tend to be relatively pragmatic, conservative, and communal. People from earth tribes tend to navigate reality with careful, methodical, and disciplined movements. They are often capable of enduring great privation and suffering, and tend to face life's difficulties with a limitless and stoic determination that only the hardiest members of other color tribes can match. People from Earth tribes are very comfortable with being still, and they are often quite reserved with their emotions, although deep under the surface lies a vast cavern of feelings and opinions. They typically enjoy the comforts of home, and they often have a strong preference for living near close family and in places they find comfortable and familiar. However, they sometimes have trouble adapting to new situations and letting go of familiar habits and patterns. Geographically speaking, people from Earth tribes are traditionally located in vast interior landlocked spaces and earthy environments like woodlands, plains, mountains, and jungles. Indeed, these tribes dominate much of the Earth's land mass, the blue and the yellow tribes occupying large parts of Eurasia, and the red tribe occupying large parts of the Americas. Culturally speaking, people from Earth tribes usually emphasize a sacred and special spiritual connection with Mother Earth and their ancestors. Red indigenous American people have long revered the land, felt a strong connection to their ancestors, and worshiped the Earth Mother. Yellow East Asian people have long revered the land and worshiped their ancestors as well. Blue Slavic people are also deeply connected and tied to the land, and even a more recent term like Mother Russia carries with it a deep and long-standing reverence for Mother Earth. On a very basic level, we can easily see and feel how red people from the Americas, yellow people from East Asia, and blue people from Eastern Europe exemplify and exude this stable, earthy energy. The air color tribes are copper, gold, and indigo. Air energy is expansive, creative, and intellectual, but sometimes diffuse and detached. People from air tribes generally value creativity, balance, imagination, and innovation, and they tend to be relatively pragmatic, liberal, and individualistic. People from air tribes tend to move in a way that makes them seem like they are gracefully gliding or floating off the ground. They typically vacillate between a naturally very relaxed repose and flying into action with confident strides and purpose. People from air tribe cultures are generally quite easygoing and sociable, and they typically adjust very easily to new situations and take a flexible approach towards life. Sometimes they are very reserved with their emotions, but at other times they express them quite powerfully. Who can say which way the wind blows? Although they generally enjoy new places, things, and ideas, sometimes they get carried away with their expansive interests and struggle to find priorities and focus. Geographically speaking, people from air tribes are traditionally located in Africa and neighboring regions like the Levant and Yemen. Although this vast continental landmass has a highly diverse terrain and climate, much of it is wide open and characterized by an endless sky and horizon, which requires a great deal of walking, trekking, and running to navigate. Culturally speaking, people from air tribes tend to have a light and airy attitude towards life, and they often enjoy being on the move and traveling around the world. Although they can be somewhat insular at times, people from air tribes often thrive on cultural exchanges, and they are typically quite comfortable living in different countries and interacting with people from different color tribes. Many are quite comfortable living a semi-nomadic lifestyle, as exemplified by the extensive trade networks created by ancient copper Berber and gold Phoenician or Jewish merchants, or the expansive migration and conquest of sub-Saharan Africa by ancient indigo Bantu warriors and cattle herders. Indeed, for thousands of years, many gold people have found themselves living far away from their homelands in North Africa and the Levant, and more recently, many copper and indigo people have found themselves migrating to Europe and the Americas as well. On a very basic level, we can easily see and feel how copper people from the Sahara and East Africa, gold people from North Africa and the Levant, and indigo people from sub-Saharan Africa exemplify and exude this expansive, airy energy. The watercolor tribes are orange, green, and violet. Water energy is fluid, intuitive, and emotional, but sometimes erratic and tempestuous. People from water tribes generally value emotion, passion, intuition, and harmony, and they tend to be relatively sentimental, liberal, and communal. People from water tribes usually navigate reality with graceful, flowing, watery movements. Meandering like a river, they tend to proceed from place to place in a casual, dreamy fashion. They have very powerful and deep emotions, which they generally struggle to conceal, and they tend to freely express their opinions and ideas. It is usually very easy to know what people from water tribes are thinking and feeling. They are naturally quite good at providing others with emotional nourishment and support, although they typically require a lot of emotional nourishment from those around them as well. Sometimes they can get carried away by their passions, and those around them must be prepared for the tides to suddenly shift at any point. Geographically speaking, people from water tribes are traditionally located in very wet climates or coastal regions. The Orange tribe originated in South Asia, a vast peninsula carved and divided by powerful rivers and sustained by torrential monsoon rains. The Green tribe originated on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea and heavily populates the many peninsulas and islands that border this ancient waterway. The Violet tribe originated in the frozen Scandinavian fjords on a vast jagged peninsula that was once known as Thule and thought to be an island itself. Culturally speaking, rivers, water, and the sea have always been very important to people from the water tribes. The Orange tribe has long been nourished by the monsoon rains and the life-giving waters of the mighty Indus and Ganges rivers, and they are well known for cultivating a mystical spiritualism that nourishes humanity with divine watery wisdom and insight. The Green tribe has long used the Mediterranean, Tyrrhenian, Adriatic, Aegean, and Black Seas as highways to help them rapidly move people, goods, and ideas around the ancient world. And they are well known for creating beautiful art, deeply infused with their overflowing, watery passion for life. The Violet tribe has long used the North and Baltic Seas as well as Europe's many rivers for raiding and trading in a similar fashion, and they are well known for their watery mysticism, romanticism, and philosophy. On a very basic level, we can easily see and feel how the Orange people of South Asia, the Green people of Mediterranean Europe, and the Violet people of Northern Europe exemplify and exude this fluid, watery energy. Now, before we wrap this video up, I just want to make a few things clear. Please understand that these physical and metaphysical characteristics are only common tendencies, and there are many people from each color tribe who do not perfectly adhere to the general pattern. Sometimes these exceptions are due to color blending, which gives many people a more diverse color profile, while other times these exceptions are caused by personal astrological energy, which also imbues people with additional layers of metaphysical energy. For example, a green person with a Leo sun sign and an astrological chart full of masculine signs is going to be more metaphysically gender balanced than a red person with a Pisces sun sign and an astrological chart full of feminine signs. Finally, there is always a certain amount of randomness at work. Nevertheless, most of the time these patterns tend to hold true. However, it is still important to treat people as individuals. This system is not meant to strictly classify people by exact types or narrowly confine people in boxes, but rather to help us better understand certain patterns which generally influence most people. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We are only just beginning our journey of color tribe exploration, and I have many more videos in the works. I want you to know that you are wonderful, beautiful, and absolutely perfect the way you are. Please know that I love you very much and that God loves you very much as well. Many blessings.